Well, hello and welcome back to my channel. My name is Joanne. I'm a law student. If I'm looking like I've had a little bit of sun, yes, I did get a little bit of sun today. Unfortunately, I tried to stay out of it, but it was a warm day. And in typical Melbourne fashion, it is supposed to be raining tomorrow and be cold and wet. So, yes, today was warm and I've got some sun. You can see I'm a little bit burnt. I tried to protect myself. I want to discuss the new bill that was it was released today. It was passed. It's called the Online Safety Amendment Social Media Minimum Age Bill. Now, this comes under the communications portfolio. So this is parliamentary business. This shows us that there was government business communications. It was Parliament number 47, so you can track it. It was passed through both houses of Parliament. It tells us that it was introduced on the 1st and read for the first time on the 21st of November. Now, this bill has also been fast-tracked. It doesn't often go this quickly. And then it went to third reading, then it went to the Senate. There was some amendments that had to go through, and then it came back to the House of Representatives, where the amendments were approved, and then it passed. Now, here we have proposed amendments, so people that spoke on the amendments that they wanted, the Senate, schedule of amendments, and then that it was agreed to. So this is really the history of. So the first reading, text of the bill is introduced to Parliament. Third reading prepared if the bill is amended by the House in which it was introduced. It's considered by the second House as passed by both houses. The final text of the bill agreed to by both houses and is presented to the Governor-General for assent. So it's going to go to Governor-General for assent. All right. So this is what it looks like on the parliamentary page when it goes through. So you've got the first reading here, and then you've got the one that says as passed by both houses of Parliament. And this is what legislation essentially looks like. A bill for an act to amend the Online Safety Act 2021 and for related purposes. It is how many? 20 pages long. The short title commencement, it talks about the amendments. So when you look up this part of legislation, you have to take all of these into a note. So the day after this, so it will commence the day after the Act receives royal assent. So it doesn't go to the King, it goes to the Governor-General on behalf of the King to give it its assent. And then it says on the Online Safety Act, so if you pulled up the Online Safety Act at the end of Section 4, this has to be added in. It says there are restrictions for certain social media platforms. A provider of such a platform must take reasonable steps to prevent children who have not reached the minimum age having accounts. And then there's all the other bits here. So this is, as I said, it's 20 pages worth of ad, the age-restricted social media platforms. Now, what's interesting is they have not listed in the bill what social media platforms are actually being restricted here. So, oops. Hi, Zhang. Hi, Zhang. And then the penalty. So here's the thing. The provider itself will receive 30,000 penalty units, or about 50K fine. But it does not penalize the child. So this is what was debated today. So as I said, that's the actual bill. So SBS on their channel says, I believe it's Facebook and TikTok. I think it's the apps. I believe it's Facebook. The media is saying Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, and Snapchat. Now, a lot of kids that I work with are very upset about Snapchat because that's how they all communicate. But it says, get ready for the popcorn. Here's the response. So this has captured worldwide attention. So it says, the ban, which will take effect in late 2025 has made global news and has drawn both praise and criticism from governments, tech companies, and citizens worldwide. The ban will capture platforms such as Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, Reddit, and X. Now, the other thing is that if it's educational and has a messaging type service, it may actually be okay. So, for example, YouTube is, they've said it would seem to satisfy the educational component. Could you say that X or Reddit was educational? I don't know. I mean, again, I guess it's very subjective. And who makes these? I mean, there's a lot of questions. I think have they rushed it through too quickly without really coming up with an action plan? I don't know. So it says the exemptions apply for health and education services, including YouTube, Messenger Kids, WhatsApp, Kids Helpline, and Google Classroom. Social media sites have to take reasonable steps to prevent under 16s from creating accounts, with $50 million fines to be imposed on companies for breaches. News around the world, such as New York Times, Spain's El País, India's Amar Ujala, BBC News, and the South China Morning all reported on the bill passing the Senate. New York Times has the heading, Australia has banned everyone under 16 from social media. Will it work? New York Post, Australia passes first ever social media ban for children under 16. Australia's social media ban for children under 16, understanding the world first law. So it has divided the world. A New York Post office with one user saying Australia will be a well-watched social experiment. Get the popcorn ready. Another in the United States said, just like alcohol and voting, America should only allow adults who have some semblance of maturity to access social media. It is destructive and can easily ruin lives. Young people from around the world also expressed various opinions on the legislation. High school student from Cuba said the ban is a bit extreme. It is true that there is content on social media that is not exactly content that teenagers should see. But despite that, I think this measure is a bit extreme because it's limiting us from what we can receive, the positive things we can see, social media. Now, as I said, I've had mixed reactions too, and so another person said that it was crazy. I would not want this to happen in Spain. Parisian student Emil Afra said banning social media for teenagers under 16 years old is a bit late. Everything is done today on social media, and I think this is a bit out of touch with reality. A 24-year-old from London said it was good to have some sort of limitations for younger kids. So let's have a look at this. Yes, so that person that was asking those questions was opposed to it. So Prime Minister Albanese addressed the new law in a press conference on Friday morning. Platforms now have a social responsibility to ensure the safety of kids. We don't argue that its implementation will be perfect, just like alcohol ban for under 18s. It doesn't mean that someone under 18 never has access, but we know that it's the right thing to do. But Senior Bose, director of tech industry advocacy group Digi, said there are still many questions on how the ban would work. The social media ban could push young people into darker, less safe spaces of the internet that do not have safety guardrails that exist on mainstream platforms. Opposition communications spokesperson David Coleman said the coalition would be That's the opposition would be making enforcing the ban a priority should they win government in the next election. This new law will make a real difference for Australian families. It's taken longer than we thought, than we would have liked for the government to act, but we are pleased that the law is now passed through Parliament. Now, Elon Musk has said it's the backdoor way to control access to the internet by all Australians. The task now, Meta said the task now turns to ensuring there's a productive consultation on all rules associated with the bill to ensure a technical feasible outcome that does not place an onerous burden on parents and teens. So countries including France and some US states have passed laws in an attempt to restrict access for minors without a parent's permission, but the Australian ban is absolute. A full under 14s ban in Florida is being challenged in court on free speech grounds. The UK has discussed a similar ban. And the European Union introduced legislation banning under 16s from online services without parental consent in 2015, but allowed countries to opt out of the age ban. So that was SBS. So this was the BBC. So this is what the BBC is reporting, and of course the BBC is the UK. Okay, BBC News Sydney. So there's 12 months before this take effect, and there is hefty fines. So the Prime Minister said the legislation is needed to protect young people from the harms of social media, something many parent groups have echoed. Critics say questions over how the ban will work and its impact on privacy and social connection have been unanswered. This is not the first attempt to restrict children's social media use, but the minimum age of 16 is the highest set by any country. Unlike other attempts, it also does not include exemptions for existing users or those with parental consent. So here's a question for you. Should social media usage for a certain age for minors have to come with parental consent? And is it up to the parents to monitor what their children look at rather than the government? I'm just throwing a few little hand grenades out there. I don't know the answers, to be honest. So, or is it making it easier for parents because they know that there is this ban and that's one less thing to go worry about? I don't know. We want our kids to have a childhood and parents to know we have their backs, Albanese said. So what's this one? Let's have a look at this one. What do Australians think of the ban?
With up to 6 off-roading modes at your fingertips, nothing and nowhere is out of reach. Multi-terrain select, available with the all-new left.
Right, let's have a look.
I don't think it's a good thing, really, because parents are going to keep still using their social media, aren't they? And their kids are going to be watching them doing it. So what's the point, really?
I think that's a great idea. Social media for kids is not really appropriate. Sometimes they can, have a look something that they shouldn't.
I think potentially there needs to be a lot more education for parents about what potentially is available on social media to their very young children. And then it should ultimately be, I feel, probably more their responsibility than like a government-wide ban on something like that.
I can understand why measures might want to be put in place. Obviously, young kids are dealing with a lot and being exposed to a lot through social media. I'm not sure if a full ban under the age of 16 is the right way to go. I think that might just potentially create more issues in the future or ways that kids might want to try and access social media under that age.
I feel like I'd still use it, like just secretly get in something. But I don't know.
You're going to miss it, aren't you?
Yeah.
So there's some interesting views there. So as I pointed out in the legislation, does not specify which platforms will be banned, and they're to be made later by the Australian Communications Minister, who will seek advice from the E-Safety Commissioner. But as I said, the minister said that it would be Snapchat, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, and X. So YouTube will be okay. They're going to rely on some form of age verifying technology to implement the restrictions. But digital researchers have said that there's no guarantee that this is going to work. Critics have also sought assurances that privacy will be protected. They've also warned that restrictions could easily be circumvented through tools such as a VPN, which can disguise a user's location and appear to be logging on from another country. Children will find ways to flaunt the rules and not face penalties. However, polling on reforms, though, is limited, suggests it's supported by a majority of Australian parents and caregivers. For too long, parents have had this impossible choice between giving in and getting their child an addictive device or seeing their child isolated and feeling left out. Many parents say the ban is too blunt an instrument. So, as I said, there seems to be. So, TikTok said the government's definition of social media platform was so broad and unclear that almost every online service could fall into it. X questioned the lawfulness of the bill, saying it might not be compatible with international regulations that Australia signed up with. Some youth advocates also accused the government of not fully understanding the role social media plays. So last year, France introduced legislation to block social media for children under 15 without parental consent, although research indicates almost half of the users are able to avoid the ban using a VPN. Utah had a similar law, and it was overturned by a federal judge who said it was unconstitutional. Norway has recently pledged to follow in the country's footsteps, and last week the UK's technology secretary said a similar ban. So there is mixed reactions. This is The Conversation, which is an independent magazine. So apparently they're saying the ban was backed by 77% of Australians. So, and also there was advice. So this is the communications minister here. So legislation includes age-restricted social media platform as including services where the sole purpose or significant purpose is to enable online social interaction with people. People can link to or interact with others on the service. People can post material, or it falls under conditions set out in the legislation. It does note some services are excluded, but does not name specific platforms. For example, while services providing online social interaction would be included in the ban, this will not include online business interaction. So, while there are reports YouTube will be exempt, the government has not explicitly confirmed this. What is clear at the moment is that people under 16 will still be able to view content on many platforms online just without an account. The legislation does not mention messaging apps such as WhatsApp and Messenger or gaming platforms such as Minecraft. However, news reports have quoted the government saying these would be excluded, along with services with a primary purpose of supporting the health and education of end users. So a lot of people are saying that YouTube, is used a lot in education, so it could be exempt. There must be an independent review after 2 years to consider adequacy of privacy protection. So so then it talks about tech companies, what options they may use, and then digital duty of care. So I don't really know how I feel about this. I think it's going to be interesting to watch. Most of the crossbench voted against the bill, as did coalition senators Matt Canavan, Alex Antic, while Richard Colbeck abstained. So coalition senators Matt Canavan and Alex crossed the floor to vote with the entire crossbench against the laws, which received mixed reviews from mental health experts during the Snap Senate inquiry this week. Liberal Richard Colbeck abstained. It followed an hour of spirited debate that saw crossbenchers question and heckle the major parties over why they rushed and flawed Liberal MP Bridget Archer also broke with her party earlier in the week to vote with the Greens and a handful of independents against the bill in the House of Reps on Wednesday. The major parties had moved quickly to pass the legislation before the end of the parliamentary year, despite reservations from some coalition MPs, the Greens, independents, who called for more time and more scrutiny. Tech companies also agitated for the debate to be delayed until the government's age verification trial is finalised. Under the law, which might come in force for another 12 months, there is a $50 million fine. There are no penalties for young people or parents who flout the law. So mental health experts, again, everything is mixed. So a question for those of you on replay. Do you get the feeling that it's been rushed and that there are going to be issues? I'm sort of getting the feeling that, in my opinion, they would have been better off putting unless you know what you're going to ban and what you're going to exempt. You've got to be transparent. So here is some reactions. Another thing I don't understand, ban social media, but for kids, but gambling ads are okay. Kids aren't old enough to be on social media, but yet old enough to change their gender. Got it, says this person. As a 90 kids with unfettered access to the internet, I can unequivocally tell you right now, we absolutely saw some, you know what, stuff people under 50 wouldn't be able to imagine, let alone effective legislate against. Here's why the proposed media ban is dumb AF. One of 19. In 2003, on my girls' high schools, we had infotech class where we had to take our own floppy disk. Remember that? Our teacher had this new thing called a USB and told us it could fit 100 floppy disks on it. Wow. My classmate then discreetly showed me Mr. Goetze's on her PC. I was 13 and know the school net had no firewalls. While our 70-plus-year-old teacher talked about searching the price of a Big Mac online, another student was in a chat room called iSketch, like Pictionary, except everyone just exchanged strangers' sexual messages with anonymous people. Throughout high school, I was shown by other kids shocking content designed to elicit a reaction like Lemon Party, Mr. Hands, Tub Girls, 211 at school, except everyone in my generation has seen or at least heard of these viral, extremely explicit videos. I'll say it again. I went to an all-girls inter-city school in Melbourne. We got awkward lessons on how to put condoms on bananas. We weren't educated about pedos on the internet, calling us pretty and asking us. We were educated on periods and pregnancy in year 7, given a lecture on not becoming a teen mum numerous times a year. In year 9 health, we had to take a robot baby home that incessantly cried. Talk about a guilt trip, girls. We did self-defense classes with very questionable old dude in grey trackies, letting it swing about while telling us how to disarm our potential with a well-timed mobile phone to strike the temple. At no point were we educated about online safety. I got detention so many times for having an unacceptable short school dress, yet next to zero support in condemnation of the man who took photos with a concealed cam in his shoe. Up our skirts after school, we were shown the pics of our undies by police and had to ID ourselves. In the days before widespread mobile phones at high school to text on, we had MSN. If it weren't for MSN Messenger, we wouldn't have been able to go home and console each other after this horrifying discovery. These photos are probably still floating around on the dark web today. While we're exposed to the incalculable dangers, we were also the first kids to network and grow up online. I was 17 when I met a guy at work, and we would get the tram home from our jobs at Macca's and complain about our parents. When we got home, we'd chat on MSN all night. This guy came from a conventional family. I, on the other hand, was absolutely going through it. There was limited mental health support, and I was dealing with complex family issues, poverty, insecure housing, and leaving year 12 VCE. He chatted to me all night and gave me comfort. Facebook had just started around this time, and everyone at school got accounts. That's how we kept in touch at the end of the year 12. It's how I reconnected with my best friend, Kate, after a period of homelessness and struggle. In Facebook and MySpace, we had an escape. We could post our music, laugh about school, and bond over trauma. When my good friend Clara from science class died of leukemia, going to her page and seeing her written tributes was the only way I could process it. Having access to YouTube and Facebook groups that taught me how to paper Navigate Life as a 17-year-old kicked out of home was critical. Let's not forget that I was lodging my own online tax returns at 14 years old. Social media kept me sane through the darkest periods of my life, my adolescence. I can tell you now, kids need to see the positive content on the scary stuff they worry about. Is it okay to be gay? Is it possible to masturbate too much? Is my dad an alcoholic? My parents are getting divorced and I'm scared. Sometimes I feel like I want to die. Young people have these thoughts and have asked these questions. The only difference now is that they communicate via SM to support each other and find the answers they seek. Yes, there are inherent dangers with children on social media. Yes, it is a huge problem, but there are fake accounts, pedos, catfish, and scammers. We'll never be able to moderate our way around these dangers, and blanket banning kids stops them from enjoying the benefits. If child safety is a real issue, we need to educate so kids can navigate social media safely, and extensive, free, and easily available info for parents too. This is how about we ban serial online bullies and abusers? What about neo-Nazis? Anyway, to round this story off, the guy on the tram that I chatted with on MSN at 17 is now my partner. We just celebrated our 17th anniversary. We have a house, 2 sons, 2 cats, and dog. We still send messages every day on socials. Don't ban kids, educate them. That's her story. I mean, everyone's got different stories. So then there's that one. The funniest part of the under 16 social media ban in Australia will be Albo tries to fine X for non-compliance and Musk tells him to, you know what? After supporting the social media ban, Dutton will be lucky to keep his own seat, let alone be PM. Then there's this one. Greenson attacked social media ban. So there's this.
That the Prime Minister had to match the dare that the Leader of the Opposition put, which was get it in place before Christmas. It's pathetic. It's a headline. It doesn't do what they say it will do. It creates a more unsafe culture and platform and environment, and will have unintended consequences. It is being rushed through. It hasn't been considered properly. It's not even going to take place for 12 months. There is no excuse for doing it in this way, except for the desperation that the Prime Minister had to match the dare.
Okay, and then this one.
Enough. And the fact that we're standing here now rushing with 10 minutes to go when many of us couldn't even make proper contributions to a second reading debate is a disgrace. So we cannot, and Senator Canavan's absolutely right with what does this message say to the children of this country when we have spent all day talking about ourselves in this building, by the way, as we do all the time, and we've crammed this critical legislation into making senators juggle between ministerial answers which are being filibustered. I mean, this is just not the way to conduct a democracy, and I think we're much the poorer for it. So I'm going to cut to the chase because I think we still do have other senators. I think we do. Look, let's be very clear about this. We don't know if this is going to work, and we don't know if it will have any impact on the problem they're trying to solve here. If you want to see some of the most egregious abuse you'll ever see online, go online to a Call of Duty game and listen to the kids going at each other, talking about people's... It's exempt. Quite right, it's exempt. So who's thought of that one, Minister? Who's taken that into account, and who ultimately is going to take responsibility when this goes the way of the Hindenburg, which it will, because it is a disaster waiting to happen. The Prime Minister and the Minister for Communications have boasted that the passing of this bill will make Australia a world leader in online safety. Well, they're wrong, because if this bill passes, we won't be leading the world in online safety. We'll be leading ourselves and those naive enough to follow us down the road to further digital authoritarianism, as outlined by Senator Roberts today. My fear is that when we finish tonight, we will have put another brick in the wall of a social credit style system in this country, and let everybody look back on tonight as a night of shame.
Okay, so that was
this just has not been...
right. So that was another. In order to ban social media, children under 16 will need digital ID. Someone says it's a very slow way to roll out digital ID. Australia to ban children under 16 from using social media. It's another one.
We know they can and should do better to address harms on their platforms. That's why we're making big changes to hold platforms to account for user safety. The Online Safety Amendment, Social Media Minimum Age Bill 2024, will amend the Online Safety Act 2021 by introducing a minimum age of 16 to have an account on age-restricted social media platforms, protecting young Australians at a critical stage of their development. The bill puts the onus on social media platforms, not parents or young people, to take reasonable steps to ensure fundamental protections are in place.
Okay, and then here's part of the press conference.
Over to prove that we're what data are we going to all have to hand over to prove that we're over 16? Are you considering driver's licenses, biometrics, MyGov accounts? And doesn't that sound like a recipe for data breach disaster?
Well, firstly, we acknowledge that this is world leading and privacy is one of the key issues that does need to be addressed.
On the social media age limit, will that be legislated by the end of next week? This one, there's bipartisanship. You want this done.
Well, Peter Dutton led the national debate on this. I mean, he came out in June and said the age should be 16 and we'll do it within 100 days of being elected.
Tell us how your system would work.
I think that we have a huge capacity here within our system. The technology is much better than it was 5 years ago. Facial recognition to determine somebody's age is appropriate. You can talk to the providers as well as the Apple and others who are with the hardware.
So through our age assurance trial, this will closely inform the implementation.
The government is spending $6.5 million to trial technology that can verify how old people are before they can access certain websites, games, or social media.
Should Australians be prepared?
Now, that is still under trial. So there is some concerns that they've brought in this legislation before they've even got the results of this trial. What if, for example, the trial shows that their technology sucks? And if it's Australia, it probably does.
For having their faces scanned to use social media? Should they be prepared to upload their documents to some sort of government database that social media companies can then tap into for age verification? I mean, what are the options here? As you say, the age assurance trial hasn't been finalised yet.
Well, this is exactly what the age assurance trial is informing. So in this year that we will take in terms of implementation, that will be the key focus.
The details haven't exactly been worked out yet, but it could include things like asking people to enter their date of birth before visiting a website, using AI to estimate someone's age, or even scanning IDs like passports or driver's licenses.
Will social media...
But, I mean, not all 16-year-olds. I mean, if you're under 16, for example, you're not going to have a driver's license and you're not going to have... everyone born in Australia gets a number for government, which is, but you don't know what it is until you actually, apply for it whenever you need it.
Their platforms be able to demand and collect personal data such as passports or driver's licenses from all existing or new account holders for age verification purposes. If not, how will age verification be obtained?
The member asked a very important question about privacy, and I will respond in a few parts. The first is that the legislation that we will bring to this Parliament will contain robust provisions as they pertain to privacy. This is a complex area, but it is one that we are determined to get right. It's one that we are determined to implement because we know what's at stake here.
So I think there are a number of ways in which we can do it. Is it perfect? No, but is there an option to do nothing? I just don't think that is a responsible course of action.
Okay, then we've got Australia Digital ID. Australia lets a cat out the bag. In order to ban under 16s, everyone will have to have digital ID, or they won't be able to get onto the internet.
Of course, if you're testing to see if someone's 13 or 14 or 15 or 16, you're also testing to see, by definition, if they're 16 plus. So if there's going to be age verification, everybody is going to have to go through an age verification process, won't they?
Yes.
Yes. So this isn't just about the privacy or collecting data about kids. This is literally everybody accessing social media. That's how it has to work, isn't it?
Yes, and
Senator Shoebridge, you just used the term age verification. You may not have been in the room when we had a discussion about the distinction between age verification and age assurance. This is an age assurance trial.
This is, if you're going to have age assurance for kids 13, 14, 15 or 16, testing, if they're that age, you're testing everyone's age and you're doing it at that level of age assurance. And that has privacy and data protection implications for literally everybody accessing social media, doesn't it?
yes, and that's one of the reasons why we've commissioned consumer research to look at consumer willingness and particular aspects that are important to them.
So, social media ban has passed the Senate 34-19. Well done, Canberra. You've just turned a whole generation into libertarians. It's 2025. Your kid gets home from a hard day at school and whips out his phone. This is the only educational video he has access to under the government's social media ban. What do you do? Says this person. I don't want the Australian government to ban kids from social media. I want the Australian government to stop supporting Israel's genocidal atrocities and stop turning this country into a giant US military base in preparation for Washington's war with China. Then we've got nothing in this ban helps young people. Behavioural and professor tells me why he thinks Australia's new law banning under 16s is just well-being theatre and child protection measures are needed.
Anyone knows the answer to that question. There really isn't a particularly clear plan here about how you would enforce something like age targets on users. We know that the technology to estimate ages is fundamentally flawed. And I don't think anybody wants to be uploading their passports or their personal information or their driving licenses to hop on Instagram.
We know that there are huge problems around the use of social media and kids under the age of 18. We know, there is. Let's just talk about what some of those issues are and why it is that Australia has made this move.
Yeah, so I mean, there are some pretty concrete things, dangers of the internet and dangers of social media. These are things that are very boring. Some of these things are like distracted driving. Thousands of people are killed every year in the United States and in the EU and in Australia from distracted driving using social media, literally in front of their faces. And obviously, these websites are used for people who want to sexually exploit young people and groom them. And there's some pretty dark communities in terms of things like self-harm and eating disorders. But nothing in this ban actually helps young people or empowers families to kind of tackle those kind of really tough online harms. This is much more of a feel-good measure to like kind of try to put this back on platforms. But really, there's no way for it to be effective.
So again, it's very interesting. No way for it to be effective. So social media as a teenager changed my life and allowed me to learn how to code and get my first job as a web developer. So again, there's lots of mixed reaction. Expect an explosion of uptake of Starlink and VPNs in Australia. The teens of Australia will be too smart for these ignorant politicians. Then someone says, I think the USA should follow. Here's another senator.
Young people. And that's the devastating thing about this. Because we know that there are families who are struggling with this. We know there are young people who are struggling with their body image, their connection with their community, their peers. Young people who are finding themselves addicted to these dangerous algorithms. But this doesn't do any of that.
We have heard the cries of families who are suffering, and we cannot continue to allow this to happen any longer.
They are totally angry, and those people are going to grow up and they're going to keep voting. And I think there's going to be a lot of change coming to our parliament in years to come if we keep ignoring those people like we are tonight.
It doesn't actually make social media safer for young people.
Okay. So yes, a lot of people are saying it's about digital ID. I know that I've not done my digital ID. So here are the people The bill, the notice, so here are all the people that voted for it. Here are the people that voted against it in the Senate. So there were 19 no's. So just to show you, that's a National Party member. It's the other one. Where's Mackenzie? She voted for it. Okay, yeah. So there's, as I said, there's lots of stuff out there at the moment.
I think the ayes have it.
Social media will soon be banned for under 16-year-olds in Australia after a new law sets a benchmark with one of the world's toughest regulations targeting big tech. It forces tech giants from Instagram and Facebook owner Meta to TikTok to stop minors logging in or face fines of up to $32 million.
We know there is widespread concern and evidence about the severe mental health impact of social media on children. We've seen
a parliamentary inquiry this year heard evidence from parents of children who self-harmed due to social media bullying. Domestic media backed the ban, led by Rupert Murdoch's News Corp.
I'll quickly pull it up.
16-year-old user Eni Lam acknowledges its potential harm, but says it is deeply ingrained in society and the law will force young people to more dangerous parts of the internet.
With such like a clear-cut ban, I believe that it will only create a generation of young people who will be more technologically literate in bypassing these like walls.
The ban also faced opposition from privacy advocates and some child rights groups, but 77% of the population wanted it, according to latest polls. Speaking on behalf of social media platforms, Australia's Digital Industry Group Managing Director Sunita Bose said the bill was rushed through Parliament.
In some ways it's cart before horse because we have the bill, but we don't have guidance from the Australian government around what are the right methods that a whole host of services subject to this law will need to employ.
In submissions, Google and Meta said the ban should be delayed until an age verification trial finishes, expected in mid-2025. The country will be watched as a test case, as a growing number of governments look to implement similar legislation.
Today I can announce that
the ban, considered a political win for Prime Minister Anthony Albanese, could strain Australia's relationship with key ally, the United States.
Come here.
Ex-owner Elon Musk, a central figure in President-elect Donald Trump's administration, said in a post this month it seemed a backdoor way to control access to the internet by all Australians. Australia has also made social media platforms pay media outlets royalties for sharing their content, and now plans to threaten them with fines for failing to stamp out scams.
Yeah, that was interesting because that was a whole thing as well. That they have to share royalties. So anyway, as I said, there is so much in here. There's lots of comments for and against. I can see the for against. I have to say though, so do you think you could donate some of your proving the social media bill is unconstitutional? So that's going to be very interesting to see whether now there'll be constitutional challenges against the bill. So Save the Children, for example, has said that it could push children into more harmful spaces. So look, I don't have the answer. I got no idea what the answer should be. I did not grow up in an age with the internet. I did not grow up with an age. My kids was still fairly new when my kids were little. I just don't know. But I'd be interested to hear what you've got to say. I do sort of get the sense though, and I do feel that it was a little bit rushed. That there was still, but often they do rush. Oh, this is This is an interesting one. It says here. So Leo Poliski, he's the anchor and founder of Channel 6 News. Now, he actually founded his YouTube channel when he was 14 years old.
Know how
So
social media companies, as you mentioned, they're being given this 1 year period in order to prepare for this ban to go into effect. Do we have an early indicator as to how social media companies are expected to handle this? Because this law is a first, really, in the world.
Yeah, it is. I think that's been an issue that we don't exactly know how it would be enforced. You know, platforms like Meta, for instance, put out a statement where they mentioned that if every Australian has to use ID, this would be an inconvenient process. It wouldn't be practical, which I think is true. And then other platforms are maybe going to explore facial recognition. But, you know, we'll wait and see. I think I'm not saying it will happen, but, you know, a couple of years ago, Facebook pulled all news in Australia, just banned news on Facebook. And not saying it would happen, but I wouldn't be entirely shocked if they kind of went the nuclear option and just withdrew because it was from Australia's market, because it was just too hard to enforce.
And social media companies, as you mentioned, they're being given this 1 year period
So that's
in order.
an interesting point. They may just go, this is too hard. So it might be deemed too hard. So very interesting. But yes, Leo Polinsky was very young. He was only a kid when he started Channel 6 News. And he sort of joked and said, well, he wouldn't have the ability to do what he did if he didn't get to. So this is Channel 6 News here. It says, it was founded by Leo Polinsky, then at age 11. He was 11 in 2019. So he wouldn't be able to set up this if he under the new rules. So there's a watch live section. So yeah, he runs Channel 6 News, and it's really designed for it's news by young people for young people. So here's Channel 6 statement. As Australia's only national streaming news channel running entirely almost by teenagers in high school, 6 News has been asked many times about the government's under 16 social media ban. Let's be clear, 6 News is not going away. Our team is made up of many young journalists, some still in high school, while others are preparing to enter university. Some of our journalists, aged 15 when this debate started, are now past the limit and allowed to use social media. As we made clear in our submissions to the inquiry on this legislation, we've been built up by having 13 to 15-year-olds see 6 News online and then join the team to explore their passions in journalism and media. We have said that this ban seriously risks restricting creativity in forms of it from our young people, no matter what passions or future career they want to explore. With the ban not coming in effect for 12 months, there's serious potential for a lot to change. But no matter what, we're still here for you, bringing in all ages, trusted, independent, and impartial journalism. So as I said, the kid was 17 now. He was 11 when this was started. So many of the journalists on here are young. So there you go. And this is their so latest news. So this is the latest news. Yeah. So anyway, that's me done. But yeah, look, I'm interested to hear what you think. What do you think about it all? Do you think that other countries will follow? Do you think it's a good thing? Is it a bad thing? Is it taking the responsibility off the parents? Should the parents be more responsible? Should you know what your kids are doing? I don't know. As I said, I don't know. I'm sorry, I just don't know what the answer is. However, I am glad I'm past all of that with my kids and that they're adults. Anyway, thank you for watching. If you could do me a favor and hit like and subscribe, that would be great. And I will catch you next time, maybe tomorrow. And yeah, I'll see you then. Bye for now.